The emergency alarm echoed through the massive halls of Nexus Station. Red lights flashed across the walls as alien beings hurried toward the Galactic Council chambers. Today was not a normal day. Today, the galaxy faced a threat that could destroy them all. Admiral Ginha walked slowly through the corridor, his military boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. His face showed no fear, but deep scars across his cheek told stories of many battles. Other beings moved quickly past him, tall Gorvathians, with their thick gray skin, crystal-like Vorthok that rang like bells when they moved, and the floating energy forms of the luminals that glowed with soft blue light. None of them looked at Jinha twice. To them, he was just another human, small, weak, not important. The council chambers were huge. The ceilings stretched up so high it disappeared in shadows. 12 different species had representatives here, each sitting in special areas made for their bodies. The Gorvathians needed strong chairs for their massive weight. The Vorthok sat on platforms that let their crystal bodies catch the light. The luminals floated in special energy fields. The smallest section, almost hidden in a corner, sat the human delegation. 3 people in simple black uniforms. Ginha took his place next to Ambassador Harin, a woman with sharp eyes and short black hair. Captain Quan sat on her other side, young, but with the steady hands of a pilot who had never missed his target. The situation is worse than we thought, Ambassador Harin whispered to Jinha. They've lost contact with 12 more systems in the past week. Ach. Ginha nodded but said nothing. He had seen the reports. Entire star systems going dark. Planets stripped of all life. The Void Reapers were awake again after sleeping for thousands of years. High Counselor Vexgaroth, a Gorvathian, as big as a small building, stepped forward. His voice boomed across the chamber like thunder. Fellow beings of the galaxy, we face our darkest hour. The Void Reapers have returned. They consume everything in their path. Already, 17 systems have fallen to their harvest ships.
I'm worried.
Sounds came from all over the chamber. The Vorthok's crystals chimed with fear. The luminals flickered with nervous energy. Even the proud Zelkany, who never showed weakness, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. We must act quickly, continued Vexgoroth. Each species must contribute their greatest warships. The Gorvathian Empire offers our Titan-class dreadnoughts. 500 ships, each one able to destroy a moon. Cheers erupted from the Gorvathian section. Their ships were legendary across the galaxy. The Vorthok representative, a being that looked like a walking diamond, spoke next. Its voice sounded like music. The Vorthok collective pledges 800 crystal ships. Our reality-bending weapons will tear apart space itself. More cheers. The crystal ships could bend the laws of physics. They had never lost a battle. One by one, each species announced their contribution. The luminals offered their energy-based fleet that could move faster than light itself. The Zelkany brought ships that could become invisible. The Korthok had vessels that could regenerate damage instantly. Each announcement brought louder cheers. The numbers grew bigger and bigger. 2,000 ships, 5,000, 8,000. The combined fleet would be the largest in galactic history. Then High Counselor Vexgoroth looked toward the human section. His small eyes found Ambassador Harin. And what does Earth contribute to this great alliance? The chamber grew quiet. All eyes turned to the tiny human delegation. Harin stood up slowly. She looked very small, surrounded by giants and energy beings and crystal creatures. The United Earth Fleet pledges its full support, she said in a clear, strong voice. We offer 47 ships and their crews. Silence filled the chamber. Then someone started laughing. It began as a low chuckle from the Gorvathian section. Then the Vorthok crystals started chiming with amusement. Soon, the entire chamber was filled with the sounds of 12 species laughing. 47 ships, against an enemy that had destroyed civilizations. It was like bringing a knife to fight a star destroyer. 47. Vexgoroth's voice boomed with barely hidden amusement. Surely the humans jest. What could 47 tiny vessels do against the Void Reapers? More laughter echoed through the chamber. Some aliens weren't even trying to hide their amusement anymore. Admiral Ginha felt his jaw tighten, but he didn't move. Captain Kwan's hand moved slightly toward his weapon, but a small shake of Haren's head stopped him. Perhaps, suggested a luminal representative, its voice like singing electricity, the humans could provide support services, supply runs, medical aid, leave the actual fighting to those equipped for it. The laughter grew louder. Even species that were usually polite started making jokes. Tiny humans with their tiny ships. What's next? Children with slingshots. Maybe they can paint targets on the enemy for us. Ambassador Horan waited for the laughter to die down. She didn't look angry. She didn't look embarrassed. She looked like someone who knew a secret that no one else did. We appreciate your concern, she said calmly. But Earth's fleet won't be providing support. We'll take point. The laughter stopped immediately. Taking point meant leading the attack. It meant facing the enemy first. It meant certain death. Point. Vexcorus' voice was confused. Human, do you understand what you're saying? Taking point against the Void Reapers is suicide. Your 47 ships wouldn't last 5 minutes. Haren smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that made smart people very nervous. Counselor, with all respect, you don't know very much about humans, she said. 47 ships might not sound like much to you. Your ships are bigger. Your weapons are stronger. Your shields are better. She paused and looked around the chamber. But there's something you're forgetting. What is that? Asked the Vorthok representative. Haren's smile grew wider. You're thinking like beings who want to survive this war. You're thinking like beings who want to win it. Admiral Jinha stood up beside her. His scarred face was calm, but his eyes held something that made the alien representative suddenly uncomfortable. The human fleet will depart in 6 hours, he said. We suggest the rest of you follow quickly. We don't like to wait. Captain Kwan also stood. Though young, something about him made the chamber's temperature seem to drop. 3 humans turned and walked out, leaving behind a chamber full of very confused aliens. None of them realized they had just witnessed the calm before the storm. None of them understood that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was the willingness to burn everything down to achieve victory. The Void Reapers were about to learn this lesson the hard way. 3 days passed since the meeting at Nexus Station. The combined galactic fleet moved through space like a river of stars. Thousands of alien warships traveled together toward the Kepler 442 system, where the Void Reapers were destroying another world. The alien ships were magnificent. Gorvathian dreadnoughts stretched for miles, their hulls thick as mountains. Vorthok crystal ships bent light around them, making space itself look twisted. Luminal energy vessels glowed bright enough to light up entire moons. Each alien fleet was a sight that could make enemies surrender just by appearing. And then there were the humans. 47 ships that looked like toys next to the alien giants. Their hulls were simple metal. Their energy readings were normal. Their weapons seemed basic. The alien commanders had stopped laughing, but they still didn't understand what Earth had sent them. Commander Korthal, a massive Gorvathian, studied his scanners from the bridge of his flagship. The human ships registered as barely worth noticing. Standard fusion reactors, basic armor plating, conventional weapons that any first-year military student could recognize. I still don't understand why they want to take point, Korthal said to his first officer. Their ships will be destroyed before they can even fire their weapons. On another ship, Crestel, the Vorthok fleet commander, ran the same scans. The results made no sense to her crystal mind. The humans showed no exotic matter cores, no reality warping, shields, no quantum weapons that could destroy matter itself. Perhaps she chimed to her crew, the humans have some secret weapon they're hiding. But the scans showed nothing. Human ships looked exactly like what they were supposed to be. Simple, basic, weak. What the aliens couldn't see was what really mattered. Inside the human ships, things were very different. Captain Kwan sat in his fighter's cockpit, but calling it sitting wasn't exactly right. Dozens of neural cables connected his brain directly to the ship's computer. His heart, had been replaced years ago with one that could pump blood at 3 times normal speed. His bones were laced with metal that could handle forces that would crush normal humans. His eyes weren't the ones he was born with. These could see across the entire light spectrum and track 100 different targets at once. His hands moved faster than human reflexes should allow because tiny computers in his nervous system predicted what he needed to do before he thought of it. Quan wasn't just a pilot, he was part of his ship. When he thought about turning left, the ship turned left. When he wanted to fire, the weapons fired. There was no delay between thought and action. Around him, 46 other fighters flew in perfect formation. Each pilot was like him, more machine than human in some ways, but more human than any alien could understand in others. "Scanner readings look good," Quan said into his radio. But he wasn't really talking into anything. The words came directly from his brain to the communication system. On the flagship, Admiral Ginha stood on a bridge that looked normal to alien eyes. Standard control panels, regular crew stations, basic tactical displays. But Jinha's crew wasn't normal at all. His weapons officer, Somi, had replaced her fear response with cold calculation. When she saw an enemy, her brain didn't produce fear chemicals. Instead, it ran attack patterns and target solutions. She could fire 100 different weapons while dodging enemy shots and never feel scared, because fear had been surgically removed from her mind. His navigation officer, Teho, could process data from 10,000 sensors at the same time. His brain had been modified to work like a living computer. He could calculate jump coordinates for the entire fleet while tracking enemy movements and monitoring ship systems, all without breaking a sweat. His chief engineer, Young Su, had metal hands that could interface directly with the ship's systems. He could feel every part of the vessel like it was his own body. When something broke, he knew it instantly, and systems needed adjustment. His hands moved before he consciously decided what to do. None of this showed up on alien scanners because it wasn't technology they understood. It was biology pushed beyond natural limits. "How are our people feeling?" Jinha asked his medical officer. Dr. Minyoung smiled. Half her face was metal, replaced after a battle injury years ago. "Combat ready, sir. Stress levels are optimal. Pain responses are suppressed. Adrenaline production is boosted. The crew is operating at peak efficiency." What she didn't say was that peak efficiency meant the human crew could fight for days without sleep, ignore injuries that would disable other species, and push their bodies to limits that would kill normal humans. Ambassador Heron watched everything from her command ship. Her vessel looked like a simple diplomatic cruiser to alien eyes. They couldn't detect that it was actually the fleet's central processing unit, with computers that could hack into any system in the galaxy. Heron herself looked normal, a middle-aged human woman in a diplomatic uniform. The aliens couldn't see that her brain contained quantum processors that let her think at superhuman speeds. They couldn't detect the chemical modifications that let her stay calm under any stress. They had no idea that she could speak 47 different alien languages fluently because language centers in her brain had been artificially expanded. "Fleet status report," she said. The answer came not from any crew member, but directly into her mind through neural link. "All ships ready. All crews at optimal combat status. Weapon systems charged. Stealth systems active." The aliens still didn't know about the stealth systems. Human ships looked normal because they wanted to look normal. Hidden within their hulls were technologies that could make them invisible to almost any scanner. Not invisible to the eye, that was easy. Visible to sensors, radar, quantum detection, even psychic scanning. Years ago, humans had fought wars against 12 different alien species. Each time, they had lost badly at first. But humans learned. From every defeat, they took enemy technology and made it better. They studied alien biology and found new ways to improve their own bodies. Most importantly, they learned that in a galaxy full of long-lived aliens, being short-lived was actually an advantage. Other species planned for centuries. Humans planned for right now. Other species tried to preserve their people. Humans were willing to sacrifice anyone and everyone to win. The alien fleets around them were magnificent, but they were also predictable. Each species had fighting styles that hadn't changed in thousands of years. They had honor codes and rules of war and careful strategies designed to minimize losses. Humans had thrown away honor codes during their first alien war. They had abandoned rules of war during their second. By their third, they had learned the most important lesson in the galaxy: there are no rules when extinction is the alternative. Admiral reported Captain Kwan's voice over the communication system, approaching the Kepler 442 system. Void Reaper signatures detected. Admiral Jinha smiled. It was not a nice smile. Signal the alien fleets, he ordered. Tell them to follow our lead and try to keep up. Should I tell them what we're planning? Asked his communication officer. No, Jinha replied. Let them figure it out when the shooting starts. Around them, thousands of alien ships prepared for careful strategic warfare. The humans prepared for something much simpler. They prepared to win. The Kepler 442 system was dying. Through the viewports of their ships, the combined galactic fleet watched in horror as 3 massive Void Reaper harvester ships tore apart a living world. Each harvester was the size of a small moon, black metal, covered in glowing red lines that pulsed like veins. They moved around the planet like giant insects, stripping away the atmosphere, the oceans, the land itself. Millions of people still lived on that world. Their distress signals filled the communication channels with desperate cries for help. Commander Korthal stared at his tactical display from the bridge of his Gorvathian dreadnought. The readings made his blood run cold. Each harvester ship had shields that could stop planet-killing weapons. Their hulls were made from materials that shouldn't exist. Their weapons could turn entire moons into dust. We need a plan, he said to the other fleet commanders over the communication network. These aren't normal enemy ships. We're facing something that destroyed civilizations. When our species were still learning to make fire, Crestel, the Vorthok commander, ran calculations through her crystal brain. My analysis shows we need at least 6 hours to properly position our fleets. We must attack from multiple angles, coordinate our exotic weapons in 6 hours, interrupted the luminal fleet leader, his energy form flickering with anxiety. The planet will be gone in 2 hours. We need to evacuate the civilians first, then plan a careful assault. The alien commanders began arguing over secure channels. The Gorvathians wanted to wait for reinforcements. The Vorthok insisted on mathematical precision. The Luminals talked about negotiation. Even in the face of genocide, they followed their ancient patterns of careful planning and risk calculation. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Ginha listened to their debate for exactly 30 seconds. Then he switched off the communication channel. Signal the fleet, he said calmly. Attack pattern Delta. His bridge crew didn't ask questions. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Within seconds, all 47 human ships changed course and accelerated directly toward the 3 harvester ships. On the alien vessels, emergency alarms started screaming. What are the humans doing? Korthal shouted at his scanner operator. They're attacking, sir. Of them, direct assault course. That's suicide. Their weapons can't even scratch harvester armor. But the humans weren't stopping. Their small fleet formed a tight arrow formation with Admiral Jinha's flagship at the point. They accelerated past safe speeds, their crews enduring G-forces. That would kill normal beings. Captain Kwan led his fighter squadron ahead of the main fleet. Its neural interface processed targeting data faster than any computer. Around him, 46 other enhanced pilots moved like they were parts of the same organism. Lock on to Harvester 1. Kwan's voice came through the communication system. His words were calm, like he was ordering dinner instead of leading a suicide charge. Target the power coupling at grid, reference 7-7's alpha. The alien observers watched their scanners in disbelief. How could the humans see power couplings that were buried deep inside harvester armor? How could their basic sensors detect weaknesses that advanced alien technology couldn't find? The answer was simple. Humans had been studying Void Reaper technology for decades. In secret bases hidden throughout the galaxy, human scientists had torn apart every piece of Reaper machinery they could find, and knew these ships better than the Reapers knew themselves. The first human attack hit Harvester 1 like a hammer blow. What should have been a futile gesture became something impossible. Human weapons, which looked basic to alien eyes, punched through Harvester shields like they weren't there. The secret wasn't power, it was precision. Every shot hit exactly where Harvester armor was weakest. Explosions bloomed across the massive ship's hull. Systems that had worked for millions of years suddenly failed. Possible, whispered Christelle. Their weapons shouldn't be able to. Her words were cut off as Admiral Jinha's flagship opened fire with its main guns. The beams weren't the bright, flashy weapons that aliens preferred. They were focused streams of particles that looked almost boring. But they cut through Harvester armor, like hot knives through butter. The first Harvester ship shuddered as critical systems exploded, but the Reapers adapted quickly. Their shields reformed, now tuned to block human weapons. Their hulls shifted, moving weak points away from human targeting solutions. Ancient AI systems that had learned from 1,000 wars began developing countermeasures. Their learning, reported Quan, as his fighter dodged return fire, adjusting attack pattern. What happened next would be talked about in alien military academies for generations. The human ships began changing their weapons in real time. Not just adjusting settings, actually rebuilding their weapon systems during combat. What had been particle beams became plasma cannons. What had been missiles became something that bent space-time itself.
Oh.
The alien commanders watched in shock. As human technology transformed before their eyes, these weren't the simple, basic systems their scanners had detected. These were weapons that could become anything, built by a species that treated every battle as a chance to evolve. Harvester 2 tried to target the human flagship. Its weapons, capable of cracking moons, locked onto Admiral Jinha's ship. Didn't try to dodge, instead he accelerated directly toward the incoming fire. "Admiral, what are you doing?" Corthal's voice came over the emergency channel. "Winning," Jinha replied. The Harvester's weapon hit Jinha's ship dead center. The beam should have vaporized the entire vessel instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ship absorbed the energy and used it to power its own weapons. "Harvester technology," explained Ambassador Heron calmly as she watched from her command ship. "We've been studying it for years. Energy signatures, their power sources, their computational systems. Did you really think we came here unprepared?" The enhanced human crew didn't just survive the attack, they turned it into ammunition. Jinha's flagship fired back with 10 times the power it had been hit with, using the Harvester's own energy against it. Harvester 2's shields collapsed, its hull cracked. Systems that had never failed in millions of years began shutting down. But the real shock came when Human Fighter 23, piloted by Lieutenant Hyan Wu, took critical damage from Harvester 3's point defense systems. Any sane pilot would have ejected. Any reasonable commander would have ordered a retreat. Instead, Hune's voice came over the radio, calm as ice. "This is Fighter 23. Beginning terminal attack. Run." The alien commanders watched in horror as the damaged human fighter accelerated directly toward Harvester 3's main processing core. They understood what they were seeing. The human wasn't trying to escape. He was turning his ship into a guided missile. "Pull back," Corthal shouted over the radio. "Human pilot, you can still escape." "Negative," came Hyan Wu's reply. "I have a clear shot at their central brain. Tell my wife I completed the mission." The fighter slammed into the Harvester's core and detonated its fusion reactor at point-blank range. The explosion lit up the entire system. When the light faded, Harvester 3 was drifting dead in space, its central intelligence destroyed by one human pilot who chose victory over survival. In the silence that followed, the alien fleet commanders finally understood what they were dealing with. These weren't soldiers following orders. These weren't warriors fighting for glory. These were humans doing what humans did best, turning impossible situations into inevitable victories through pure, stubborn refusal to accept defeat. And there were still 2 Harvester ships left to destroy. "All alien fleets," came Admiral Jinha's voice over the communication channel. His ship was damaged but still fighting. "Follow our lead or stay out of our way. We have work to finish." The galaxy was about to learn why you never laugh at a human fleet, even a tiny one. 6 hours had passed since the battle began. The space around Kepler 442 looked like a war zone. Broken metal floated everywhere. Explosions lit up the darkness. 2 of the 3 Void Reaper harvesters were destroyed, but the cost was terrible. Only 15 human ships were still fighting out of the original 47. 32 ships gone. Thousands of people dead. But the humans weren't giving up. They never gave up. Admiral Jinha stood on his bridge, blood running down his face. Half his crew was dead or wounded. The ship had holes in the hull big enough to walk through, but his eyes still burned with fierce determination. "Status report," he said calmly, as if they weren't losing a war. "Hull breached on 5 decks," reported Chief Engineer Young Su. His left arm was gone, replaced with a metal one he had built during the battle. "Life support failing. Main weapons at 20% power." "That's enough," Jinha replied. "What about the last harvester?" The final Void Reaper ship hung in space like a wounded monster. It was damaged, but still alive. Still learning. Still adapting to every attack the humans threw at it. Captain Kwan's voice came over the radio, filled with static. "Squadron leader, reporting I have 8 fighters left. The harvester is getting smarter. It's predicting our moves before we make them." Around the human fleet, the alien armadas finally joined the fight. Thousands of ships with weapons that could break planets. But they weren't winning. Every time they attacked the harvester, it learned how to defend against them. Commander Korthal's giant warship fired its main gun. The weapon could destroy moons. The blast hit the harvester directly and did nothing. The ancient ship had learned to absorb the energy and use it to fix itself. "Impossible," Korthal whispered. "How is it doing this?" The Vorthok crystal ships tried to trap the harvester in twisted space. The machine simply disappeared and appeared somewhere else, completely unharmed. The luminal energy beings attacked on levels that normal matter couldn't touch. The harvester adapted faster than they could change their tactics. "It's learning too fast," reported the luminal commander. "Every new strategy we try, it develops 3 ways to stop it." That's when Ambassador Harin's voice cut through all the confusion on every communication channel. What she said next would change how the galaxy saw humans forever. "Listen carefully. All fleets, you're fighting the same way you fought for thousands of years. Harvesters have seen your tactics before. They know how to beat you because you never change." Her ship moved closer to the harvester. Next to the alien dreadnoughts, it looked tiny. But somehow it felt more dangerous than all of them combined. "Humans don't fight the same war twice," Harin continued. "We don't even fight the same battle twice. Every defeat teaches us something new. Every loss makes us stronger. Every impossible situation becomes a puzzle we can solve." On his damaged bridge, Admiral Jinha smiled. It was time to show the galaxy what humans really were. "All human ships," he announced. "Begin evolution protocol." The alien commanders had never heard those words before. They were about to learn what they meant. Every surviving human ship began to change. Not just weapons this time, everything. The hulls reshaped themselves. Engines rebuilt their own design. Computer systems rewrote themselves while the battle continued around them. "Captain." Kwan's fighter squadron broke apart and reformed into something completely different. Some became tiny bombers. Others turned into mobile hospitals. Few became pure energy that could pass through solid walls. "What are they doing?" Crystal asked, her crystal voice shaking with confusion. "Evolution," replied Ambassador Harin. "In real time." But it wasn't just the ships changing. The human crews were transforming too. During the battle, they were modifying their own bodies to become better fighters. Lieutenant Haijin lost both legs when her console exploded. Instead of going to the medical bay, she connected her brain directly to the ship's navigation system. Now she was the ship's guidance system. Her human instincts merged with computer precision. Sergeant Dongsu's lungs were destroyed by poisonous gas from a hull breach. He replaced them with artificial ones that could breathe poison and turn it into useful chemicals. Now he could survive in environments that would kill anyone else. Pilot Moran's fighter was completely destroyed, but she survived by uploading her mind into the squadron's shared computer network. She became a living AI that could control multiple ships at once. The aliens watched in horror and amazement as humans threw away everything that made them human, and somehow became more human than ever before. They're not following natural laws, whispered a Vorthok scientist. Biology doesn't work that way. Technology doesn't work that way. It does, said another voice, if you're willing to sacrifice everything to win. The Harvester was adapting too, but it couldn't keep up with humans who were changing faster than its ancient programs could calculate. Every time it developed a new defense. The humans had already become something different. Admiral Jinha's flagship began its final transformation. The entire ship became a single weapon. Every system, every wire, every piece of metal focused on one goal, destroying the last Harvester. This is Admiral Jinha, to all human vessels, he said quietly. It has been an honor fighting beside you. I'm sure someone tells our story. The alien commanders realized what was happening. God. Jinha wasn't just attacking the Harvester. He was turning his entire ship into a guided bomb, just like the fighter pilot had done before. Admiral, don't do this. Corthel's voice boomed over. The radio? You can still escape. There are always other options, Jinha replied calmly. But this one is certain. His ship accelerated toward the Harvester's core. The ancient vessel tried to destroy him, but Jinha's crew had removed all safety systems, all survival equipment, all limits on their reactor. They were burning their ship from the inside to generate enough power for one final attack. The Harvesters. Weapons hit Jinha's ship dozens of times, but it didn't slow down. The human crew had modified their bodies to survive in space. When the hull broke apart, they kept working in the vacuum, guiding their ship toward the target, using nothing but their will to win. Captain Quan's voice suddenly crackled over the radio. Admiral, wait. We found another way. We can hack into the Harvester's brain. But it was too late. Jinha's ship crashed into the Harvester and exploded. The blast was so bright it could be seen from neighboring star systems. When the light faded, both ships were gone. In the silence that followed, the alien fleets tried to understand what they had witnessed. Species that treated death as just another tool. Beings who could evolve during combat and throw away their lives for victory, Captain. Quan's surviving fighters regrouped near the wreckage. Only 7 ships remained from the original 47, but they had one. This is Captain Quan to all. Human vessels, his voice was steady, despite everything. Mission complete. All Void Reaper ships destroyed. Beginning rescue operations. Commander Corthal stared at his sensors. How many of your people survived? 412 out of 8,000, Quan replied like he was giving a weather report. Acceptable losses for mission success. Alien commanders felt a chill run through them. Not fear of the humans, but fear for them. This was a species that would burn itself out completely if it meant saving others. And somehow, that made them the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, because they were willing to win at any cost, even if that cost was themselves. But in winning, they had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten, that some things were worth dying for. That sometimes the only way to preserve life was to sacrifice your own. The humans had reminded everyone what it meant to fight for something bigger than yourself, and the galaxy would never be the same. The wreckage of the Kepler 442 system floated in space like a monument to war. Pieces of Void Reaper ships mixed with the remains of human vessels. The debris field stretched for millions of miles, lit by the fires of cooling metal and escaping atmosphere. 7 human ships survived out of 47. 412 people out of 8,000. The numbers were terrible. The victory was absolute. Captain Quan floated in the pilot seat of his damaged fighter, his body more machine than flesh now. During the battle, he had replaced his damaged organs with spare parts, merged his nervous system with the ship's computer, and modified his brain to process data at inhuman speeds. He was still human where it mattered, in his heart, in his will to protect others. Casualty report complete, he said into his radio. His voice was calm, like he was reporting the weather instead of the deaths of thousands of his friends. Void Reaper vessels destroyed. Mission successful. Around him, the alien fleets hung in space, their crews silent with shock. They had witnessed something that would change the galaxy forever. Not just the destruction of an ancient enemy, but the revelation of what humanity truly was. Commander Korthal's massive hands shook as he stared at his tactical display. His Gorvathian dreadnought, built to last 1,000 years, had barely scratched the harvesters. But these humans with their tiny ships had destroyed 3 of them in a single day.
How?
He whispered to his bridge crew.
How did they do it?
His science officer, a young Gorvathian who had studied alien cultures, looked up from her station. Sir, I don't think they're like us. We fight to preserve our people, our ships, our way of life. They fight to win, no matter what it costs. Christel's crystal form chimed with confusion as she processed what she had seen. Her people lived for thousands of years and planned everything carefully. The idea of sacrificing yourself for victory was alien to her thinking. They evolved during combat. She reported to her crew, not over generations like normal species. During the battle itself, how is that possible? Her chief scientist, Crystals, glowed with uncertainty. It shouldn't be possible, but we saw it happen. They changed their bodies, their ships, their very nature while fighting. It's like they turned war into a form of directed evolution. On his energy-based vessel, the luminal fleet commander flickered with colors that showed deep respect mixed. With fear, his species existed as pure thought and energy, but even they couldn't change as quickly as the humans had. Send a message to the Luminal High Council, he instructed his crew. Tell them we need to revise everything we know about human capabilities. They're not just another species. They're something entirely new. Ambassador Haren's command ship moved slowly through the wreckage, scanning for survivors. Her vessel looked barely damaged, but that was because most of the fighting had been done by the fleet's combat ships. She had coordinated the battle, turning individual human ships into parts of a larger weapon. Captain Quan, her voice came. Over the communication channel, status of remaining personnel. All survivors accounted for, Quan replied, requesting permission to begin recovery operations. Granted. Also, prepare for visitors. The alien fleet commanders want to talk. Within an hour, shuttles from a dozen different alien species docked with Haren's command ship. The ambassadors and military leaders who had laughed at the tiny human fleet now came as supplicants. Wanting to understand what they had witnessed, the meeting room was simple, basic human furniture, standard lighting, nothing impressive. But the alien representatives entered it like they were walking into a sacred place. Commander Korthal was the first to speak. Ambassador Haren, on behalf of the Gorvathian Empire. I apologize for our earlier disrespect. We did not understand what your people were capable of. Haren smiled. It was a tired smile, the expression of someone who had just watched thousands of her people die for victory. You're not the first to underestimate humans, Commander. You won't be the last. Krestal's crystal form chimed softly. We need to understand. How did you know you could defeat the harvesters? Our calculations showed it was impossible. Here. Calculations were based on normal warfare, Haren replied. Humans don't fight normal wars. We fight to win, and we're willing to pay any price for victory. The luminal representative flickered with confused colors. But the cost? You lost 90% of your fleet. How is that acceptable? Haren's expression grew serious. Because the alternative was letting the harvesters destroy more worlds. Because protecting others is more important than protecting ourselves. Because sometimes winning requires sacrifice. She stood up and walked to a window that showed the debris field outside. Every human who died today knew the cost. They chose to pay it anyway. That's what makes us different from you. Captain Quan's voice came over the ship's communication system. Ambassador, we're receiving priority messages from Earth Command. They want a full report on the battle. Tell them we'll send the complete tactical analysis, Haren replied. And tell them to start preparing the next fleet. The alien representatives looked confused. Next fleet? asked Korthal. The Void Reapers weren't alone, Haren explained. Our scouts have detected more harvester ships in the outer galaxy. This was just the beginning. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. More harvesters meant more battles like this one. More impossible odds, more human sacrifices. Many ships will Earth send next time? Asked Crys-Tell. Heron smiled again, but this time it was the smile of a predator. However many it takes, 50 ships, 500, 5,000. We'll keep building fleets until every harvester in the galaxy is destroyed. And if you run out of people, asked the luminal representative. Then we'll build more people, Haren replied simply. Clone soldiers, AI consciousnesses, whatever it takes. Humanity doesn't know how to surrender. Commander Korthal felt his blood run cold. He was beginning to understand what the galaxy had gained and what it had unleashed. Ambassador, he said carefully, what does humanity want in return for? This protection? Haren looked at him with surprise. Want? We don't want anything. This is what we do. We protect others because someone has to. We fight impossible battles because someone has to. We sacrifice ourselves because someone has to. Turn back to the window. You called our fleet tiny. You laughed at our 47 ships. But those ships contain something more dangerous than any weapon. Human will. The determination to never give up, never surrender, never accept defeat. And now? Asked Crys-Tell. Now you know what humanity really is, Haren said quietly. We're the species that turns impossible odds into inevitable victory. We're the ones who look at extinction and laugh in its face. We're the fire that burns in the darkness, keeping the monsters at bay. Captain Quan's fighter limped past the window, its hull patched with metal from destroyed harvester ships. Even in victory, even with most of his friends dead, he was already planning the next battle. The galaxy has been at peace for too long, Haren continued. You forgot that some things are worth dying for. You forgot that sometimes survival requires sacrifice. You forgot what it means to fight. She faced the alien representatives one final time. But humans remember. We always remember. And we'll keep fighting until every threat to innocent life is destroyed, no matter what it costs us. The meeting ended in silence. The alien representatives returned to their ships with new understanding and new fear. They had gained the galaxy's greatest protectors. They had also gained its most dangerous weapon. 3 months later, reports began spreading throughout the galaxy. Human fleets were appearing everywhere. Void Reapers attacked. Small fleets, usually. Fewer than 100 ships. But they won every battle through tactics that no other species could match. Sacrifice tactics, the military academies called them. The willingness to lose everything to achieve victory, other species began requesting human protection. Some tried to copy human modifications and failed. A few asked to join human fleets and were welcomed with open arms, but everyone understood the truth now. In a galaxy full of ancient civilizations and powerful technologies, the most dangerous, Force was a young species that refused to lose. The humans had reminded the galaxy what it meant to fight for something greater than yourself.